My name is Jonathan Evison. My friends call me Johnny. You may call me Johnny. I am the author of the scandalous novel Lawn Boy. Well, I never intended it to be a YA novel or anything like that. I wanted it to be a novel that had the velocity of adolescence. I could see how it would appeal to a younger audience, but I wasn't targeting that audience. And by no means was I targeting, middle school libraries. It just ended up there. I think what happened is I won that American Library Association award, the Alex Award, which was for an adult novel with special appeal to younger readers. And so I think that got me traction with a lot of YA readers. It ended up in a lot of school libraries that probably, I don't know that it would have otherwise. It's kind of meta in that way. I mean, I kind of envision it as the novel Mike wishes he was writing. I was a landscaper for years, so and I had a lot of those experiences that, working in rich people's yard. We're here at the winery, and a landscaper's been going around. I've been kind of judging him all morning. I've been like, hey, you want to hit that edge a little better, buddy. I still got it in my blood. Well, I know this idea of the American dream is kind of a recurring theme in all my books, people trying to get their little piece of the pie. It's usually because I deal with working class characters oftentimes. I grew up in a sort of affluent community, but without money. We were like the poor family. And so growing up, I always had a sense that I was sort of taught differently, I wasn't taught how to value myself in the same way that like kids I knew that were upper middle class so I just grew up sort of classist, in my own way. I remember I always use the example, if I was going to mow my neighbor's lawn, say I was going to mow Mr. Austin's lawn, I'd say, hey, Mom, I'll be back. I'm going to go mow Mr. Austin's lawn. He's going to pay me $10. And my mom would be like, oh yeah, maybe 5. 10 sounds like a lot. Maybe somebody's going to undercut you there. So, that's what I was taught. And then, the kids that grew up with more money, their parents, they say, yeah, I'm going to go mow Mr. Austin's lawn. And they go, well, that's a big lawn. I think you should charge him $20. I mean, that's the difference between, I learned that early on, so that's just something that's always stuck with me, this sort of uneven playing field of the American class system. It's in the book, Mike did it. It would be a merman with an erection and like a school of like sucker fish around, swimming around him. Well, when I got the first one, and some guy named TJ, and his profile picture is like him on a quad, and he's like, if you ever set foot in Texas, I'm gonna kill you. And then I'm like, oh, all right, well. Then I check the next one, it's another guy, and his name's like CJ, and he's like on a quad, and he's got the little goatee. I was just all these, I'm like, this guy can't afford to come all the way from Texas and kill me anyway. But noted, I haven't done any events in Texas since then. And ironically, that's where the book launched. My very first event for Lawn Boy was at a National Library Convention in Dallas. So the first thing I did was in Texas, and I don't know if I've been back, but they were all from the South. There was probably about 9 or 10 of them. I collected them. I had to be quiet on the socials. I kind of went quiet for a couple weeks because it was more disturbing than the death threats, which I didn't really, take that seriously, were the projecting pedophiles, like people talking about my daughters, like what I do to my daughters or my son in the bushes. And I'm like, whoa, project much? That's when I kind of closed down because I'm like, whoa, these people are looking at pictures of my family. Like, ugh. That really creeped me out. I don't know. More than anything, it's just kind of sold books. It was an uncomfortable couple of weeks, but it's clearly it doesn't work. All it does is drive more young people to read the book. So I don't really understand what the end game is. Well, all of my characters really have one thing in common, and it's usually marginalized people, whether I'm writing about characters of color, characters of, non-binary characters, or just downtrodden working class characters. And the elderly are about as, marginalized as you can get. And, I'm fascinated with this idea of mortality. I'm getting older myself, but I think the first good novel I ever wrote, like 35 years ago, was called Welcome Avenue. And it was actually really good. I just didn't know what I was doing. I was just sending it to office buildings in New York with a pretentious cover letter. And so it was never published, but it was based kind of on my experiences. When I was 17 years old, I had this agoric grandmother, Grandma Sweetie, who lived in a motorhome park in Sunnyvale, California, and it was all senior citizens. But I moved down there to be her caregiver, so I was like the only person in this like 65 plus motor court of probably 500 people. I was the only person under 65 years old, and here I was just starting community college. I was 17 years old, and like that experience really stuck with me. I mean, like I think when young people just, first of all, back then I thought everybody over 30 was old, but like it was such a awakening for me to be surrounded by these people and befriend them and like spend time with them and really listen to them and see how much they had to offer, and all the wisdom and the great stories and experiences, and was really interesting to me. And it helped me become conversant in eras well beyond mine. Like I know all kinds of stuff about the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, whether it's popular culture or music or sports or anything. And a lot of that came from just communing with all these elderly people. And so, yeah, that's always been a theme. I mean, and my next book is about an elderly married couple that have been married. It's a story of their marriage over 70 years. And again has an elderly narrator. And there was Welcome Avenue and then Harriet Chance. So, yeah, I'm just attracted to it. I think the closer you draw to death, too, there's like you got some big questions. Mortality, looking back over a life and defining what a life well lived is. And, the longer you accrue experience, the more regrets you potentially accrue, and that's always interesting.